Am I the asshole for telling my husband he's an alcoholic and making him out to be a monster? My 30 female husband, 30 male, is a daily drinker. For the last 6 years he drinks a min of 1-2 beers every single day. Sometimes for money or other reasons he voluntarily won't drink for 1-3 days in row, but that only happens every few months. The first year we were married he drank almost a fifth a day until I gave him an ultimatum. He stopped for a brief period but quickly switched to beer. I've asked him several times over the years to cut back on his drinking and it has never lasted for more than 2 weeks. A couple of weeks ago I asked him to completely stop drinking. He agreed. A few days into it he had a panic attack and lots of anxiety and drank a beer to calm down. I caught him and asked him to use his coping skills or take his medication rather than drink and reiterated that he needed to stop drinking completely. A couple of days after that he got a job offer and had a celebratory beer and drank the following day as well. Again I caught him. He tried to deny he was hiding it. He said he misunderstood our previous conversation and that he thought I asked him to cut back, not stop completely. Both times I found hidden beer cans. I told him he was an alcoholic and gave him an ultimatum and said that the next time I caught him he could either go back to his home state alone or get immediate help for his addiction. He agreed. Today I found another hidden beer can. He swears it was from before our previous conversation. I don't know if I believe him. He used to do hide bottles when he was drinking heavily the first year of our marriage. I reminded him of this and asked him to explain why he was hiding it. He said it was because he didn't believe he had a problem. That he knew I would get mad if I saw him drink, so he hid it. That I made him out to be this monster and he knew he didn't have a problem, so when he felt like having a beer, he had one. I asked him to explain what he meant by making him out to be a monster, because I didn't believe I had done that. He said it was the way I described his drinking. I asked him to clarify what exactly I said to make him feel this way. He said it was because I said he drank every day, started drinking too early, and drank into the night. He said I might think this but that it wasn't actually happening that often. When he's not working he starts drinking as soon as he's done with his chores. This is typically at 11 a.m., 12 p.m. He will drink throughout the day, at least 1 beer every 2 hours until about 9 p.m., 10 p.m. When he's working he'll start drinking as soon as he gets home and will have at least 2-4 beers. When we're really broke he'll buy a couple of tall cans for the day. He says this is not accurate. That he's the one who consumes it and buys it and he knows he's not drinking that much. He holds firm that he has not drunk since our conversation last week and is not an alcoholic and that I can't make him out to be a monster. So AITA? Edit. He only drinks 1-2 a day if we are broke, or I have recently commented on his drinking, asked him to cut back. It's typically 2-4 after work and about 6 on the weekends, both days he's off. There's a pattern where it will slowly increase until it's a 6-pack after work and 8-10 beers on the weekends, both days he's off. Then I'll say something and he'll either cut back to 1-2 again or stop completely for a few days or at times up to 2 weeks. He hasn't been working since July. Hence the previously mentioned job offer. He normally does have a job, and it got to the point where it was a 12-pack. He'd drink 8-10 beers out of it, or a 6-pack every other day, or at minimum 1-2 tall cans during weeks where we were pretty broke. It's been off and on since July. I've asked him cut back at least 2-3 times since July. The last 2 times I've asked him to get help and he maintains he doesn't need an outpatient treatment program or AA because he doesn't have a problem. He's been saying he's going to get individual therapy, but hasn't followed through. Update. We talked and I plainly told him that I really don't believe that the beer was from before our previous conversation because he had lost my trust. He said that was fair. I told that despite that I would give him the benefit of the doubt, that I could not know for certain when it was from. I've given him until trash day, Monday, to rip apart the entire house and car for any leftover cans. He tried to say he wouldn't even know where they could be hidden. I called bullshit and said I didn't want to hear it and to just make sure they were gone. He agreed. I told him that the next time I found a can his 2 options would be to go to an outpatient, inpatient, either, program or go back to his home state. He agreed. I also asked that he admit he had a problem and was an alcoholic. The conversation started to turn into semantics, but I outlined the red flags and made it clear that this was necessary in order for me to move forward. He took a moment alone and then admitted to seeing the red flags and agreed with my viewpoint of him being an alcoholic. I still feel like this is getting into semantics, but I'll take it for now. Thank you to the people who suggested Al-Anon. Not the asshole. He is an alcoholic. And I've never met one I want to spend 10 minutes with. He won't change until he admits he has a problem and he wants to change it. Otherwise, this is the rest of your entire life. Is that what you want? I stopped reading somewhere in the middle. Yeah, he is an alcoholic and calling him that is the only favor you can do him. He has still a long way to go. You gave him an ultimatum and he didn't comply. The best, because the only thing you can do now, is stick with your guns and draw consequences. He is lying to you and you are not the asshole. Not the asshole. Your husband is self-medicating with alcohol. He certainly sounds dependent on it even if he is not falling down drunk. His medication might not be working if he is drinking. For example, if he was on an antidepressant and drinking alcohol, which is a depressant, his medication won't work as well. He definitely needs help with his anxiety other than the beers to relax him. His doctor would be the best person to help him figure it out. Not the asshole. I can tell you from experience that giving your husband ultimatums is not going to make him stop drinking. I tried it with mine and it never worked. Your husband is an alcoholic and he won't stop drinking until he decides he wants to, and he won't get help until he decides he wants help. Having no money for bills or food never mattered to my husband. As long as he had his beer, everything was fine. That sounds the same for your husband. I suggest looking into Al-Anon. You don't need to go to meetings if it makes you uncomfortable, but their website is helpful. You can also get some books to read about it. You need to detach from him and live your own life and let him live his. It is hard, but it is the only way to keep yourself half sane while going through this. I wish you the best. So your husband is an alcoholic, plain and simple. Now it's on you to decide if you want to waste more years of your life on someone who will choose a bottle over you every time. Simple as that. Would I be the asshole for not going on vacation with my in-laws? My 47F husband's 48M parents love to travel. Every few years they organize a family trip that includes my husband and I, our daughter, my husband's sister, and her 2 boys. With 3 kids in different schools, summer break is the obvious time to go. Increasingly they've timed the trip around the hottest part of the year, August. This is where the conflict comes in. I am an avid gardener. I also have a flock of chickens and ducks. Where we live, August is droughty and can bring heat and wildfires. I spend most of the month watering areas that aren't irrigated, and making sure the hens have plenty of water. Occasionally I even have to bring a few inside to treat for heatstroke. Leaving all this unsupervised for a week is stressful. It involves a lot of planning ahead, and limits what and when I can plant. We have a house sitter, but he can be gone for 12–13 hours during the day for work. I'm not a huge fan of traveling anyway, I should just put that out there. Between my homebody nature, and how tiring it is for me, introvert on the spectrum, to spend a week with 4 extroverted adults and 3 teenagers, I'm already not excited for these trips. Also, my Phil insists on planning everything himself and we have zero agency. No choice in where we go, where we stay, or for how long. 3 years ago they planned one of these trips for August, and at the time I was able to make excuses about work. I stayed home for a lovely quiet week, but got a lot of heavy-handed, "We're so sorry you couldn't make it" comments from the in-laws. My husband, Peter, knew the real story, and while he may have been a little hurt, I think he was relieved he wouldn't be stuck in an Airbnb with a grumpy wife. About a month ago, Greg, my Phil, started talking about an Alaskan cruise next summer. Peter ran the idea past me and I said sure, can we try to go in June or early July? Peter passed this request on to Greg. A few days later, Peter tells me that his sister, Cindy 50F, can only do August. Her oldest has sports in June and July that his dad, her ex, won't let him miss. So August it is. And this time I don't have work as an excuse. I went into business for myself 2 years ago. My choices are to A. Suck it up and go along, or B. Be the party pooper who opts out of quality family time for no good reason. At this point it's gone beyond just frustration around timing. I clearly have zero input and my needs are obviously not important. Peter won't push back because Greg is paying for the trip, and Peter dislikes making waves to begin with. I'm not comfortable going around him to challenge Greg. This is a family that prioritizes niceness and go along to get along over everything else. Would I be the asshole if I choose not to go on this vacation? Update 9/30. Greg just emailed the itinerary he's looking at, and it happens to be one of the only Alaska cruises that does not depart from or arrive in our city. The parents-in-law would be taking a 3-day land tour by themselves, so we would need to pay for tickets to Anchorage and then ground transport to the departure port, which is 2.5 hours away. The cruise ends in a city several hours north of us, so we'd also need to pay for train or flight back home from there. Add in transport to and from the airport or train station as well. We live in an outlying area that's not super convenient because money. As in, we don't have a lot of it. Uber to the airport from here runs around $100. This is feeling less and less like a free vacation, and more like that time he bought us a drip coffee maker for Christmas because he hates our French press. Not the asshole. Nothing about this vacation sounds remotely relaxing for you. If they push, then be honest and say August doesn't work for you. You would be stressed the entire time, and while you're grateful that your Phil wants to pay for a vacation, you're not comfortable about not having any input in the itinerary. YWNBTA, but I do want to point out that, I don't enjoy myself on these trips, is a good reason not to go. Not the asshole, and you have perfectly valid reasons. Don't take the role of bad guy. You've clearly stated before it doesn't work for you. Let husband manage his family. Not the asshole. You're an adult. Tell your husband to have a fun time with the kids, but this is not a trip you will enjoy. You're not going to go. You're going to stay home and take care of the flora and fauna. If he can't see that, you have a husband problem. He should prefer to vacation with you and the kids, not just think about the freebies from his parents. Not the asshole. You are obviously not happy when you go, and you have a lot of work in the summer. Just say no, and if they don't like it, too bad. Don't let your ILs dictate to you. Am I the asshole for refusing to give my stuffed animal to a baby? I, 31F, regularly travel by bus to see my fiancé, who lives in France, until we settle down together next year. The problem is that I have a few psychological disorders that can complicate things, including schizophrenia, Tourette's, and social phobias, including a phobia of babies. So I never travel without my medication, a headset that insulates me from ambient noise, and a little stuffed animal. A little fox that helps me stay calm and manage my various crises. Today was the day. I'm going home with an 8-hour bus journey from Paris to Belgium ahead of me. I have everything I need. No big deal, I can do it, I thought. The problem for me is the presence of a toddler with her mother. A child's screams and cries are very hard for me to bear. But I understand that for a baby, it's a long time in her seat with nothing to do. So I just turn the volume up a little, being 3 rows behind the mother and her daughter, who is getting more and more agitated and is now screaming. From what I understand, her diaper was full and her mother couldn't change it, even though the driver has assured her that if need be, he'll stop at the nearest freeway service area to allow the mother to give her daughter the necessary care. Now comes the moment when I can potentially be Remember the fox stuffed animal? Her name is Bidouille, by the way. I take it with me to the bus toilet, keep her in my T-shirt, and then put her on my belt until I'm back at my seat. The little girl starts screaming as if something had been broken, and honestly, even I, who is afraid of children, began to wonder. I take Bidouille back, look out of the window, and the little girl's mother comes up to me and takes Bidouille out of my hands, saying, "Can I have her? The kid's got a crush on it and is having a fit." What? No? I answer the mother politely, and asked her if she'd be willing to give up her child's stuffed toy to calm someone else's tantrum, or even tears. She says, no, of course not. But she wants it and she's not going to stop crying until she gets it. It's okay, you can buy another one. I reach for Bidouille, she clenches her fingers on it. I hear a creak and fear it's damaged. Rising in anger and anxiety, I get up from my seat, telling her that if she wasn't capable of handling an 8-hour journey with her toddler on a bus, she should think again, reminding her of what the driver had said. So I took my plushie back, telling her that she just had to organize herself better and not think that as soon as her daughter points at something while crying, she's going to get it, especially if it belongs to someone. Even more so if it belongs to someone with mental disorders. She called me a racist and a effing goth, and went back to her seat. So, am I the asshole? I apologize in advance for any spelling mistakes. English is not my first language, French is. Less than. Edit. I don't have the words to say how much your comments comforted me. We managed to get home safe and sound and Bidouille is okay. Not a scratch, and I kept her in my arms all night long. I wish I could show you how cute that plushie is. Simple but enough to melt a heart. Red heart once again, thank you, everyone. From me and Bidouille Fox. OMG the entitlement. You're not responsible for anybody else's child, regardless of how much a tantrum they're having. Rest easy and give Bidui a kiss for me, not the asshole. Not the asshole. She has no right to your things, but unfortunately there are people out there who have no boundaries. You did the right thing and were firm but not rude. Not even remotely the asshole here op. Hope being at home helps you relax from the nonsense. Not the asshole. I try not to judge parents if screaming children because you don't always know what is going on. The child may have issues, but that doesn't mean she is entitled to your belongings. She doesn't have the right to demand you hand over your stuff and sounds really obnoxious. Not the asshole. I've seen this kind of thing a lot here. Parents demanding other people give their kids an item they own. It's so weird. Had to laugh though at being called a goth as an insult. Am I the asshole for refusing my sister's offer to pay for the gender reveal scan? So my girlfriend, F26, and I, M29, found out in August that we were going to be parents to our first child. Generally, everyone was very happy about the news. However, because of the shock I felt at the time, it wasn't planned. I called my mother for reassurance and it helped. She wasn't happy. I told her over a phone call, which I understand and am likely an asshole for. I apologized and we put it behind us. My sister has been supportive. She helped us move to a new house, wanted to take my partner out baby shopping in a few weeks. However, my mother was less helpful. We had a FaceTime mid-August about housing options. Then my mother randomly asked me about if my partner was on the pill. I said yes and I've seen her take it, and she asked if I was sure. Almost like she was insinuating that I was baby trapped. I have had worries about my sister. I'm happy she's excited, but I feel sometimes she's too much. She was talking about having the baby every weekend so we could do stuff as a couple, and I said we have to consider both families. She was also concerned about us moving a bit closer to my girlfriend's family than mine. She said I wouldn't get as much support and questioned the support from my partners as her mother lives 2 hours away. I said she comes down every weekend to look after her mother with dementia, we'll be fine. My sister offered to pay for our gender reveal scan. We both thought this was a lovely gesture and said yes. My sister understandably wanted to come because she's paying for it. My sister told me that the one she was booking allowed up to 5 people to come and suggested we bring my mum along. I then said if she's coming, then my girlfriend's mum should come too. She disagreed because it's the only involvement they'll have during the pregnancy and my girlfriend's family will be at other events. We said it's not about who we're including, it's about having support during a personal appointment, and my girlfriend doesn't want only all my family there. My mum previously said either it's just my family or no scan. I said fine, we'll pay for it ourselves. My sister then messaged my girlfriend to explain her reasoning, which left her in tears. She also said my family like to do things separate and they're a bit antisocial. They think meeting my girlfriend's mum at the scan will be awkward. We think this kind of reasoning is selfish and not putting our wishes first. My mum and sister are getting me to understand their reasoning. I do understand it, I just don't agree with it. My girlfriend's mum isn't bothered by them not wanting her there, just more by how it's affected us. She told me not to worry about them and hugged me. She said she's happy to pay for it and for me to invite whoever I want. This is a post here because despite many agreements about our side of things, I have doubt because my sister was going to pay for it. And I was considering my dad, but my girlfriend's mum believes that would anger my family. Am I the asshole? Not the asshole. I personally wouldn't accept their offers to pay for things like this moving forward either because it seems like they're going to use these things as control over you and your girlfriend and will throw these nice gestures in your face when they don't get their own way. Not the asshole. This sounds like your mom and sister are making this pregnancy and baby about them. It's absolutely not. They are not the parents. Not the asshole. It's not really a gift if it comes attached with a bunch of conditions. They're using this to exclude your wife's family for whatever reason. You're better off paying for the scan yourself so you aren't pressured into doing what they want. Not the asshole. It seems your family has some control issues. Your sister only offered to pay for the scan so she could hold it over your head so you do as she says, i.e. it was help with strings attached. I would be weary of any offer of help from them because it will come with strings attached. Look at how your mill reacted when you talked to her about it and compare it to how your family behaves when it comes to the situation at hand. Not the asshole. Pregnancy is not a bloody group project. Your family are way too involved in this and creating drama for no reason.